G'day guys, hope you've been out and about on the bike, if the weather's been allowing you to do so. Weather's a bit overcast here today, so I just thought I'd show you what I call my Grand Prix Legends helmet collection. Now, this helmet collection is based on a series of riders who I think most people consider are legends and that I've seen ride over the years. This first helmet is the Barry Sheene. After his death, Arai released, I think it was 500 limited edition helmets, primarily in the UK. They never came out to Australia though, but because of his links with Nine's Wide World of Sports, commentating on the 500 Grand Prix with Darrell Eastlake, Arai made a special run of 70 helmets based on the Astral series. They released 70 of these into Australia the year after he died, and I was fortunate enough to pick up one of these. It's what a great paint scheme this was, with the gold, the duck on the front. You couldn't give a duck. And Sheene really was one of the true legends of the sport. I'm sure Valentino Rossi has modelled himself partially after Barry. They were good friends. Interestingly, the interior of this is the blue interior, which Arai has now re-released. Since having years of grey interior, they've re-released this blue interior into their latest Corsair X series. So that's the Sheene. This second helmet, he didn't win as many as others, but as far as I'm concerned, he's perhaps the most entertaining of the lot. Kevin Schwantz, I saw him ride at Eastern Creek on 2 occasions, and he was such an entertaining rider. This helmet was available in the original paint scheme, not with the 34+1. It was available in the early 90s, an Arai helmet. At that stage, I couldn't afford to buy one. So when Arai re-released this paint scheme a couple of years ago, I jumped at the chance of owning this helmet because he was a hero of mine. And this is the paint scheme that he wore the year after his one and only 500 Grand Prix championship. As you can see, 34+1. And then he retired later that year, early on in the season. But it's great to have a Schwantz helmet. Over the next side here, we've got someone who dominated the 500s in the mid to late 90s. No introduction, of course. The classic Doohan paint scheme. Up the back there, doing okay. The green and gold shorts for Australia, Australian flag, so forth. I think they refer this as the Jubilee paint scheme. Australian flag here. This paint scheme came out, I think it was 10 years after Doohan retired. No, 10 years after Doohan won his final World Championship. Again, it had been released in various models prior to that, but I was fortunate enough to be able to afford to get one of these helmets back then. And I'm also very lucky because this helmet has been signed by Mick. He was doing a signing at a toy shop on the Gold Coast. I think he was selling remote control cars and so forth. And if you go to the Grand Prix, trying to get a signature can be very, very difficult. I rolled up on my bike with this, intending to join a huge queue. He was just standing in the car park, hanging around. I don't know how many people who didn't follow bikes knew who he was, but I went straight up to him and he was very kind to sign this helmet. So it's nice to have a helmet like that. This fourth helmet is the favourite colour scheme of mine from Valentino Rossi. This is from the Titec era. I love this paint scheme. The sun part on this half, and then coming around the front, and then on this side you've got the moon coming around here. He rode in this colour scheme when he was riding for Honda when MotoGP commenced, And then I think in the first year of Yamaha as well, I found some of the Caracol and these other stickers off YouTube. I just stuck them on just so it makes it look a little bit period correct. Rossi has so many paint schemes that I think anyone who's a fan of Rossi has got their own particular favourite. I'm hoping when he retires that AGV will be good enough to re-release some of his favourite paint schemes, or even get Aldo Drudy to do a bit of a montage of his different paint schemes. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So these were the 4 that I had, and there was always one missing, and that was the Wayne Rainey, because I had always wanted a Rainey paint scheme again in the early 90s. Like a young guy, most young guys couldn't afford more than one helmet, and the racing replicas were too expensive for me. But I've been looking out for a Shoei with the Rainey paint scheme, and it just so happens that this year, just now, Shoei has re-released that. I'm just going to grab it for you. I was extremely lucky. If you come in and have a look, I was extremely lucky because right place, right time. I just happened to look on the internet over summer as to put in Wayne Rainey helmet, and Shoei has just released this in their X Spirit 3 or X14 as it's called in America to complete my collection. It's true in colour to the original helmet. It's kind of the Marlboro orangey red rather than deeper red that seems to be shown in the colour scheme on pictures on the internet. The only difference really compared to his other, the original paint scheme, is there's a bit of a break here. You can see there's a white line going here and here, and then if you look at the back half, the line is consistent the whole way through. In person, it doesn't really bother me. I thought, don't know whether it's going to be nice or not. It looks spectacular. It's so great to be able to have a Rainey helmet available once again. He was such a brilliant rider. There's debate over how many titles Doohan would have won if Rainey hadn't injured himself. Perhaps Doohan would have had the medal over him, but for me, he was such an outstanding rider. And whenever he was interviewed for Grand Prix, he never complained. Didn't matter what was going on. He'd always say, yep, it's going great. Yep, haven't got any problems. And I think that was part of his psychological strategy. Now, something interesting, if you come in and have a look at this, we've got the Barry Sheene helmet with Barry's name on the back. We've got VR on the back for Rossi. We've got Doing OK on the back of this one. Some of Schwantz's, sometimes they had KR written on it, but not this. And the Rainey ones always had, the original racing ones always had his name. Now, when you look at photos on the internet or you buy the helmet, it doesn't have Wayne written on the back of it. And I thought that was a real oversight by Shoei. But when you open the box and you get there's a packet, which is plastic packet, which has got all the paperwork and some Shoei stickers. I pulled all of that out, and fell on the ground was this Wayne sticker. So if you come in close, what it is, it's actually a clear sticker that's curved, and it's designed to fit perfectly in this space here. What I did was I lined it up, the Y with the O underneath, more or less, to try and centre it. It's very sticky, so I had to kind of peel it up and put it down a couple of times. It was very hard to get it without any air bubbles. So it's got a tiny little air bubble here, but I've managed to get the curve to line up exactly with the black. And that, to me, just made the helmet. I would have been really disappointed if it hadn't got that on the back, because it is a Rainey replica. So if you buy this helmet, make sure you don't just throw the paperwork away. Have a look and you can stick that on the back. Just some of the features of this helmet. If we look on the inside, I was cleaning this before I started filming it. I'll see if I can put this back on. Yep. Okay, if you have a look on the inside here, I'm a die-hard Arai fan, but if you come in close, you'll see that the cheek pads here, they're thicker at the front, and then they just get thinner as they curve around the back of the face. I find this to be one of the few helmets that I've bought. I've got a very thin face, where unlike my Arrows, where you've got to build up the cheek pad slightly, this fitted me right out of the box, kind of squishing the cheeks up against the cheekbones. It's a super, super comfortable helmet. It's actually lighter than, it's definitely lighter than this model Arrow. And I think it feels lighter than my Corsair X as well. If you come in close, if you have a look at some of the features with regards to airflow up the top here, you've got some airflow that goes straight in here. The Arrows don't have that. If you look at the Schwantz, you'll see it's got the airflow higher up, and on things like the Corsair X, they've got them up here and here. Arrows say they don't want to compromise structural strength by drilling holes here. But for me, I ride a naked bike. I've actually found the airflow with this has been superb. Powers straight in through here and comes out the back here. This thing, 3 metal pieces of metal. I don't know that you'll be able to see that or not, but if you come in close, you might be able to see there's little holes through there, and those holes are the exit vents. Now, I was riding this morning through the Gold Coast hinterland, and you could feel the air flowing through. I haven't really felt that with the Arrows, except on a really cold day, and you notice the change of temperature in your helmet. But the airflow with this is really, really good. The other feature is that it's got these wings on the back, and so it gives you that kind of elongated profile that you don't get in the Arrows. Some of the AGVs have got this. That's purely for aerodynamics, and it allows the air to flow past with minimal buffeting, and it really works. I'm quite surprised at that. On the front, it's got these additional vents as well. It's got the standard breath vent here, but the bottom one, this is a new feature. Apparently no other helmet manufacturer's done this. The air, if you have a look in close, the air goes in there and it actually channels around and it comes out through the cheek pads. Now, it wasn't cold enough to really notice the difference. It's not kind of buffeting on the cheeks, but I think when it's cooler, I'll notice that the airflow is coming through. Overall, it was a really interesting ride today because in some of my other helmets, I've come back and the hair's quite sweaty. The airflow on this helmet meant that I was able to come back and I really didn't have a sweaty head at all. The other thing is that with some of the newer helmets, they've all got this really wide kind of Panavision visor with the side here coming further back. This gives you extremely good field of vision. And unlike the Arrows, this is ratcheted. So if, like me, you like riding with the helmet cracked, if you look at this Arrow, it doesn't have any ratcheting. It's just firm, and what I find is if I have it about a knuckle open, the air doesn't knock it shut, but if it's loose, it will just slam shut straight away. With the Shoei, it's actually proper ratcheting, so you can adjust it and it will stay in place. One final feature of the Shoei is that if you're looking close here, you might be able to see it's got a bit of a carbon fibre look to it. It's not real carbon fibre, it's just plastic, but it's nice that they put in a bit of effort around making it look different rather than just a bit of black plastic. The interior is nice. It's this lovely red interior. Here you can pull out the cheek pads as an emergency release system. The only thing I don't like about this helmet, and this is really minor, I have no idea why they've made the chin strap so long. It's about that much too long, but you can clip it out of the way. It's not a major problem, but it's just something worth noting. So, this summer I've been able to round off my collection of what I call the Grand Prix Legends helmets. I hope you've enjoyed having a look at them, and perhaps you've got your own collection of your own favourites. Thanks for watching.